All right, brief break, but I'm back with part 3. And let me see if I can remember where I left off on. So, yeah, I think I left off when Zach said named Dylan Thompson as the person that my son had the altercation with. So, this thing just gets crazier and crazier. Now, during this process, we find out that Zach had his mom wash my son's clothes while he was missing. So, I'm like, by then I'm angry and pissed off doesn't even define it. So I'm like, still, now I'm dealing with the authorities like, Zach needs to turn my son's phone in. Why aren't you guys putting pressure for him to turn my son's phone in? Now, this segment here, part 3, I'm going to focus more on the authorities. Because remember, in the beginning, they really didn't take it serious, What do they say? Because I watch a whole lot of crime shows, and they tend to say, well, yeah, the person is grown, yada, 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 in their mind, maybe Corey fell off the grid for a minute, he don't want to be bothered. I'm like, not without his phone, not without his social media going silent like that. Corey don't do that. And, I'm not Mother Teresa or nothing like that. But my son, he always communicated with me. He always wanted me to know what was going on in his life. The good, the bad, the ugly. And if the thing is by then, everybody knows he's missing and the authorities is involved. He would have contacted me by then. I'm making videos crying, looking for my son. He'd have contacted me. And this is what I'm telling the authorities. But they, in the beginning, I want to say the first few days, they didn't see the urgency. And so, to me, they were giving me the runaround because they were saying, because because so much has happened and it's been a year. They were saying, in the beginning, I go back again and oh, well, he's grown, he's this. But I'm like, if that be the case, this guy has my son's phone. He has his backpack and he has his clothes. I've asked him to turn them in to you guys, and he refuses. Doesn't that tell you something? Can you just look into this? And again, I can't remember what set off the urgency of, I know what it was. I remember now. I was getting so PO'd that I called all my sons, as many of his little friends that I could up in the Bay. I didn't really know these people. But the ones who were genuinely looking for Corey, I said, I need you. Here is his case number, his missing person case number. Call the Fresno County Sheriff's Department. Blow the phones up. Do what you have to do to get some type of ball rolling or something, looking for my boy. Because see, me talking, and I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Me as a black woman calling, looking for my black son, it wasn't hitting on a hill of beans. So I had to get his friends to do it. And when they started calling, they shut the phone systems down. That is when they started moving and when they started taking it seriously. So by going into that second week, that is when they started looking for him. And I kept asking them, have y'all been to that house? First time I asked, they were like, yeah, we went to the house. Now, this is the Fresno County Sheriff's. We went to the house. No. At first I said, what about the house that he was at? And they said they didn't know about any house. They didn't know where this house was. And I said, the young man that was with Corey had stated to somebody, because by then I'm getting a lot of stuff through my messenger, a lot of he say, she say stuff from a lot of that group of young people about the goings on and names and people that are involved with this case. And so they were like, it was something to the extent of, it was Zach's mom it was Zach's mother who dropped him and Zach off at their house. Because driving to Los Angeles, Zach was using his mom's car. So it was Zach's mom, Teresa, that dropped them. Teresa Carruthers, Caruthers. It was her that dropped them off at the house. And so I'm like, okay, well, can you get up with her to find out the address to this house so you can go to it? And so the story was with the authorities is that they had to ask Teresa multiple times where this house was. And basically she kind of played them off or acted like whatever in regards to this house, or like she didn't know or something to that extent. And the detective said they had to kind of threaten her, like, if you don't tell us this, then, I guess they could get her for obstruction, or something to that extent. Again, like I said, that was, it is, some of it is a blur. Because I didn't know whether I was coming or going during this time. I was in a twilight zone, honestly. They finally get the address to this house. And they call me and they say, okay, we're going to the house. And we're going to call you by end of day and let you know what happened. So, end of day comes, And then they're like, okay, hey, we went to the house, but nobody answered the door. Make a long story short, it was about 3 or 4 times they said they went to this house. And I want to say a week and a half time span. So we're going into probably the 3rd week of, maybe 3rd or 4th week that Corey has been missing. And finally they call me and say, hey, we talked to the occupants of this house. And then they tell me everybody that was at that house, everybody that they talked to that was at that house, including Zach and including Dylan Thompson, they all had the same story. They all said the same thing. But the way that the sheriffs told me this was like, well, they all said the same thing, so basically it must be true. That's the impression that they gave me. And so I'm like, duh, don't you think they had long enough to collaborate a story together and stick to it? But that's just me. I may not be the smartest tool in the shed, but that's just me. But they were so blasé about it. Yeah, well, So it was from that point, I'm like, y'all full of it. And so that's when I contacted the FBI to get them involved. Now, the sheriffs are saying all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they're really not taking action or taking this thing seriously. Really not, it's like we got to call them and chase them to get answers. Not really voluntarily calling me, telling me anything. And the only time they really voluntarily really called me is to ask me to make a video on TikTok pleading with my son's friends in the public to stop making death threats against Zach. Because they were like, if they keep making death threats against Zach and something happens to Zach, well, we'll never find Corey. So can you please make a video? Can you please plead with Corey's friends in the public to stop the death threats against Zach Stiles? And I'm going to tell you, I didn't want to. I was like, I don't care. I do not care what happens to him or the rest of them. Why should I? What's happening is somebody is just beating me to the punch. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. But I'm like, okay, I also want answers. I want to know what happened. I also want some closure. So I made the video. You can go on TikTok. So, did all of that. Finally, because by then I had kind of also people behind the scenes helping me trying to get this idiot to turn Corey's phone in. So to make a long story short, 12 to 14 days later, Zach decides to turn my son's phone in. But he didn't turn it in Fresno County. Zach drove up to Sonoma County, 4 hours away from Fresno County, and turned my son's phone in. The detectives in Fresno County claim they drove up to Sonoma County to get my son's phone that weekend. And they brought it back. They brought it back down to Fresno County. And they began the process of going through my son's phone. Maybe 2.5, 3 weeks later, I was getting off work and I got a phone call from the detective. And he basically said that they were flabbergasted about what they found in my son's phone. What they said, the last messaging that they seen from my son. And for those of you that sit up here and say, well, why would Corey go to Kerman? Corey was lured to Kerman. Corey thought he was on his way home. And the last messaging that they seen from Corey in his phone, after they searched his phone, was my son was very, very upset because he wanted to go home. He was trying to get home. But Zach was trying to keep him from getting home and trying to keep him there for some reason. So yes, after they searched my son's phone, because of course they're not going to find anything else on his phone, but because Zach wiped it. But one of the things that they found was that Corey wanted to go home. And he was very upset and he was trying to get home. They also said they found it highly suspicious the amount of times that Zach used my son's phone and accessed his social media the entire time he had Corey's phone. However, they never arrested Zach. They never even put Zach up as a suspect. Never. However, this is when they finally got a warrant after this stuff with my son's phone to search the house. Okay? They searched the house. I still don't know what they found. And by then I find out from my son's friends, his real friends, that because they're just as upset as I am. Zach is in Hawaii. Zach's mom went on Facebook, put encrypted messages on her page, because I screenshot them. I seen them before she blocked me, saying, hey, does anybody have a loaner phone that they can give me, no questions asked? All of this kind of stuff. But the authorities, to me, they were slipping. Now, if this was a Amber Alert for Susan or Mary, we'll have answers by now. And if it was the other way around, and Corey did this to Zach or any of the other jackasses involved in this case, Corey would be up under the jail right now. We do know that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But yes, it was after that. And it was after the fact I start talking to the news media that the authorities were portraying like they were really doing something and really trying to figure out what happened to my boy. All the stuff that we gave them coming from the streets, they never did anything with it. I have an anonymous person that won't 100% say that they were there. But even Stevie Wonder can see that they were there, but afraid for their life. Admit on a recording some stuff, telling me everything that happened to my boy. We handed all this stuff over on a silver platter to the sheriffs, and they did nothing with it. The Fresno County sheriffs, by the way. We've had different people give different names because there's a lot of people involved in this thing. The first 2 weeks of this thing, I got ransom calls. I got people calling me from 5 o'clock in the morning to midnight throughout the week saying, "Hi, Corey's mom. Corey is being held such and such, or we saw him such and such, and if you send us $500, we'll give you the location. He didn't look very good, and it's this. And if you send us $500, we'll give you the location so you can give it to the authorities." Yeah, I was getting all kinds of crack calls like that. I was getting calls from mutual friends of Zach's and Corey's that basically messaged me telling me that I threatened Zach and I threatened Zach's mom. Well, by golly, yes, I did. And that they're scared of me. And that they love Zach and they love Corey, and they don't like to see Zach scared, and they want to know what happened to Corey, and all this kind of stuff like that. And I mean, I went through all of that stuff. A lot of people that claim that they were looking for Corey and all of this stuff, but they really were, what do you call that, moles, wanting to be in the group or in the environment or in the atmosphere to collect information to take back to the very people that were responsible. So here we go, part 3. We're going into part 4. Stay tuned.